The Male Couple, How Relationships Develop. David P. McWhirter, MD, Andrew M. Mattison, MSW, PhD. Chapter 6, Stage 4, Building, Year 6 through Year 10. Characteristics: 1. Collaborating. 2. Increasing productivity. 3. Establishing independence. 4. Dependability of partners. Sometimes we look at each other and just shake our heads. I think, I know what he's thinking, and he knows what I'm thinking too often. That's more than just being lovers. 9 years together means a lot of water under the bridge, and a lot more too. Walt, 40, has been living with Manny, 38, for those 9 years. Walt has been a barber for almost 20 years, first working for someone else and then owning his own shop for the past 10 years. He grew up on a small farm in the Midwest and left home at 17 to get away, joined the Navy, and spent time in San Diego. He learned to cut hair while on active duty. After his discharge, he stayed on in America's finest city, where he has lived ever since. He had finished high school before leaving home. He says he liked school, but has only taken a few courses in junior college since. He came out during the last year in the Navy and had several relationships before settling down with Manny 9 years ago. Manny also had a Navy career. He grew up in Northern California near Oakland. He stayed in the Navy for 8 years before taking a discharge. He also had graduated from high school but didn't have any college time. His recent courses in plumbing were the most he had wanted. He took a job with the Postal Service and has been delivering the mail in the same neighborhood for 10 years. He claims he was out of the closet before joining the Navy, but never got caught in the service. He also tells us he is a recovering alcoholic, mainly because of Walt's support. We haven't always been such good friends. Manny looks to Walt as he speaks, but the roughest days are behind us now. They'd better be. I know he's reliable because he's been hanging in there even when I used to get so drunk nobody else could handle me. Walt shifts uncomfortably in his chair, clearly not wanting to comment on that last remark. We each have our separate ways. Manny plays golf on Saturdays, and you couldn't drag me out there with a team of wild horses. I go off to the beach to muscle watch. We are impressed by the number of rituals these men have. Dinner on Friday nights at the Cooper Kettle, Saturday nights for TV, last week in June means the lake, French toast on Christmas morning, and a bath before bed every night, Manny adds proudly. Old Iris over there has been with us ever since he got run over 7 years ago. Manny fixes that dog a hot meal every morning. I say he babies him too much, but what the heck, he's only going to be around another year or so anyway. The vet says he's going blind. Walt, walking past Manny, slaps him lightly on the back of the neck. Manny's good for a few more years, I hope. He'd better be. He's the one who nursed Iris back to life, and he does everything for him. And we have a lot of things to see together. We learn that while sex with others no longer disturbs either partner, they do continue to enjoy sleeping together every night as they have from the beginning. and they make love a few times each month. They own their own home together. It's a comfortable middle-class neighborhood where working-class couples live and rear their families. The lawn is neatly trimmed. The flower beds across the front of the house all carefully weeded. The living room is furnished with a practical, sturdy living room set, a vinyl-covered recliner, and a Mexican blanket in front of the small fireplace for the dog. There are a few plants in the front window, and the lace tablecloth on the dining room table is visible from where we are seated. Manny and Walt have a small circle of mutual friends, mostly other male couples with whom they socialize several times in an average week. They admit that they do not talk together as much as they did a few years back. Both agree that they could say anything they wanted to each other, although they rarely need to talk so seriously anymore. Manny laughs. Lord, there was a time when you couldn't shut us up, particularly Walt. We would talk the flowers right off the wallpaper. It was one night after another of thinking we were making sense out of a bunch of junk. We just had to agree everything right into the ground. Walt sits up straight. That pair of lamps there on either end of the sofa came from a big furniture sale, and we spent one whole week talking about whether or not to get them or save up for a recliner chair. Walt and Manny are just in the process of combining their savings to invest in some acreage. We just finished fixing up a little ranch and selling it. We did all the work ourselves. Manny learned plumbing, and I learned the electric work without killing myself, Walt says. But we had to fight about who would sew the curtains, Manny added wryly. Anyway, from here on in, there are certain things we each know how to do, and this next ranch should be a good project for us. Don't get the idea that we're in each other's back pocket all the time, Manny says. I still do my own things, and Walt does something, I suppose. Walt pretends to try to kick Manny. He's just jealous because he cannot get into my bowling club, he says. To tell the truth, his bowling night is great for him and for me, Walt says. Even on a night when I just watch TV, I think some people smother each other. I suppose even if we're together another 9 years, there will be some things to get used to with each other, Manny says. But the truth is, when Walt had his appendix out last summer, I thought it was me that wasn't going to make it. Get right down to it, Walt says. We get on each other's nerves sometimes, but I always know Manny is here. Yeah, and so's Iris, Manny says with a wink. Collaborating. Collaborating means working together. It also has the connotation of cooperating in a negative manner, as when one strikes a bargain with a seeming enemy. In either case, it means working together to make the best of what there is. Our findings about couples in this stage support the dichotomy. There is a quality of working together in the couple's life whether they are joking, doing dishes, or making a difficult decision. They know each other. They finish sentences for each other. They are finely tuned to each other. There is so much ease with the relationship and comfort in this family of three, the two partners and their relationship, that they cooperate in moving closer together in making sure that there is room for each individual at the same time. There is an ebb and flow or a push and pull in their loving. The collaboration arises from both the earned familiarity and the developed complementarity of the couple. Often the two seem to function as a single person in the tasks they perform. Each reports the feeling of knowing what the other thinks and feels at such a high intuitive level that it reminds them of the first year, but without the illusions. There is reality in depth now. The fear of loss has lessened so much that the couple finds that they have only each other, but more, something intangible and unanticipated. The couples have passed through the initial threats caused by the reappearance of the individual in stage 3. A new unspoken rapport is with them. They no longer require the elaborate verbal exchanges and clarifications. The men know and trust each other deeply. Collaborating is easy and rewarding. The negative side of collaboration is far more subtle and is rooted in the positive feelings. The constant communication of stage 3 led to the present rapport. Communication about each other and about the relationship itself happens intuitively in stage 4. The danger is the resulting complacency. The energy of the couple now is directed outward easily and the relationship gets neglected. The very comfort and reliability of the relationship that lulled the couple into complacency blinds them to the continuing process of change. They do not see that they themselves are changing. Their relationship is changing too, and the relationship needs attention and nurturing. It needs new excitement, renewed romance for the couple together to reestablish facets of the past that have gradually slipped away. Ironically, the easy relationship has become a threat, almost an enemy. This comforting, quiet, ironic enemy may lead to boredom and empty routines that partners independently fear as traps. The collaborators, of course, do not recognize the relationship as an occupying enemy, but they do move instinctively to protect each other and the mateship by devising mechanisms for both moving away and for each other and, at the same time, consolidating their partnership. In actuality, both the distancing and consolidating, seemingly oppositional forces on the surface, are critical ingredients that aid in the continuing stability and vitality of the relationship. The collaboration that sustains and increases the strength of the relationship leads the couple to find or create more and more areas of complementarity. Walt learned electrical work and Manny learned plumbing. There are some direct results of the increased smooth collaboration. Couples invariably have increased financial security and usually an increased comfort of lifestyle. Once we really began working together on making more money, it was almost like nothing could stop us. We pushed day and night, both of us, making contacts, working weekends, not taking any time off. We sure wouldn't be here in this house if we hadn't done that. Doug is a real estate agent and his lover Bill is an interior designer. Bill works weekends with Doug, helping to hold open houses, returning phone calls, and doing whatever is needed. Doug helps Bill get more jobs. Doug and Bill live in a spacious, beautifully appointed, expensive home. We know we have slipped into living a bit beyond our means. We're sure continuing to work hard to keep it all together. Doug admits and Bill nods in agreement. For this next couple, the high collaboration has brought them financial success and upgraded their life situation, but in the highs of collaborating, they overextended themselves. They lost some of their individual objectivity and were both carried along on the deceptive tidal wave of mutual cooperation. We tried working together to make more money, and it was a disaster. Ben tells us about their efforts at collaborating. At home, we always worked well together, no problem at all. We thought investing in this bar would be a bonanza. Wrong. It opened up too many areas of disagreement and different ways of dealing with things that never happened to us before. Our jobs fit us to a T, but this business was just too much. Some couples can't be involved with each other on everything. Couples who enjoy and do well with high collaborating at home might not be able to carry that into every aspect of their lives together. The above example demonstrates this well. Often enough, these couples have established fixed roles at home, which increases the smoothness of their working together there. But when they try to move away from the structure, problems result. Usually, these fixed roles also have created a high level of complementarity when the game shifts to new ground. The old complementarities are no longer effective. Collaborating sometimes also means one partner supporting the other and striving to achieve certain goals. However noble the intention, one partner can be misguided in his estimate of the other's ability and can encourage him to pursue something beyond his reach. In such a situation, they are collaborators, and the failure of one or the other, and both feel badly about it. Ron was a hotshot, aggressive, outgoing real estate salesman. Ted, his lover of 8 years, was a shy, thoughtful, sensitive man who saw how pleased Ron would be if he, too, could make as much money. So Ted announced to Ron that he could sell real estate too. Ron actively supported Ted's efforts, but despite everything, Ted was not successful. Highly tuned, intuitive communication results from the give and take of stage 3. As a result, there is a decline in verbal checking in. Partners believe they know what each other thinks and feels, but often changes have taken place in one or the other. Thus, unwittingly, the partners misinterpret each other. I thought I really knew what he wanted. He always told me in the past that he would love to do some foreign travel. I worked for several weeks to plan a surprise trip, and when I sprang the surprise on him, he seemed much less enthusiastic. I was flabbergasted. His lover replies, "A few years ago, I was interested in going abroad. In fact, then I would have given anything to go. Now I'm more interested in buying a sailboat and staying in town. I guess I haven't made that clear to you." Sometimes couples collaborate so intensely that old competitive feelings get ignited. In these cases, there can be monumental power struggles, resulting in relationship collapse. Sam and Frank started their business together 2 years ago and have been very successful. Each had made large sums of money when they started to compete to see who could make the most. This led to a serious struggle over who should run the business. And it almost ruined their relationship. What had started out as an effective and enjoyable collaboration stimulated their individual competitiveness and turned them against each other. Sam is talking in retrospect. We had such a good thing going, and we almost lost everything because we lost sight of each other. Our successful working together got us away from attending to our relationship. I'd rather lose the business than us. At any rate, we got smart to that just in the nick of time. Increasing productivity. As is so often true in nature, from the union of two beings, something new is produced. Male couples are no exception. The collaboration so characteristic of stage 4 leads to a smooth interchange and ability to think, feel, and work together. With couples in this stage, we saw some like Manny and Walt working together to restore property, sending one of the partners back to school, joining a local business association, or creating a vegetable garden that yielded much more than items not found at the produce market. One rented a Rottweiler and set to it. One rented a rototiller. One rented a rototiller and set to in the garden, while the other read books on horticulture or plant diseases and their cures. We saw the pride they took in their accomplishment and production. There was pride also in the manner in which they were doing this together as a team, learning what the effort seemed as important as the product. Individual productivity is increased during this stage. Men talk about greater success and satisfaction with their jobs. Individual achievement is encouraged and supported by partners. We found many career changes and much job advancement in this stage. It is easier to walk strongly into the world when there is a strong, well-functioning home where one is nourished. Academic life has advantages and awful drawbacks. Brian is telling us about his job at the university. Like the politics of getting promotions, for a long time I just couldn't get committed to jumping the hurdles, especially at the start of our relationship. Greg was far more important to me than my job. Then a couple of years ago, I found new energy to put into teaching and research. Greg really got behind and pushed me. The increasing productivity of this stage is not limited to possessions, specific projects, or tangibles, but extends to expansion of attitudes and horizons for the individuals and the couple. For example, Brian's increasing attention to his academic life probably was made possible by the dependability of Greg and the collaboration of stage 4. There is less concern about attending to the relationship, making energy formally directed inward to the couple available to be directed outward to the job or other project. Sometimes, male couples put so much energy into projects that they become like proud parents focused on rearing children, getting the job done well, while paying little conscious attention to their marriage. Without children, male couples often turn their attention to their projects as if they were offspring, and in so doing, pay little conscious attention to their relationship. Usually, there is strength and resilience enough to manage the problems brought on by the neglect. For Manny and Walt, their ranch and all the work it required became much like a child. As if they were parents, they took pride in the project, how it was developing, and the recognition they got from others for a job well done. They were telling us about how they were plagued at the ranch by a leak that seemed to change its source with each rainstorm, and is so characteristic of couples in this stage. They paid less attention to the strain it placed on each in relation to the other than to getting the leak fixed once and for all. Couples express greater ability to get projects completed together with each other, assuming his own responsibility, resulting in a smooth working together. For instance, some couples describe the ease with which they now entertain. One partner plans and executes while the other takes the assisting role. Their mutual productivity is supported by a trend toward one partner always doing one task while the other always does his. Such rigid roles block changes that need to be made in the relationship. It is precisely this kind of situation we had in mind earlier when we described the relationship to the occupying entity. Couples speak less often, but with no less feeling of the troubles that go hand in hand with the smoothness of their working together. There is the sudden unexpected outburst. Why don't you do the party this one time and let me just do the dishes? Although their entertaining comes off like clockwork, what was once a fun activity together has become a fixed routine. The various chores become expected and hardly noticed, as if they are running a restaurant but without earning salaries. Couples miss the fun of doing it together, and in the process of routinizing everything, they forget to recognize the part each plays in making things function. From stage one onward, there usually has been at least an attitude of financial equality. Although in previous stages couples may have purchased a home or condo together, it is at the beginning of stage 4 that they begin combining their money and possessions, which contribute to the increasing productivity. It is unusual for all of their money to be merged, but it is not unusual for them to combine resources more creatively at this time in order to make more. We have observed that the gradual merger of money and possessions is clearly a symbolic and actual commitment to the relationship, often unspoken and unrecognized. Establishing independence. Each partner in a male couple does become more of a partner and more of his own person during this building stage of the relationship. The pursuit of a separate hobby, friend, entertainment, sport, or activity may take partners in divergent directions. My new friend may or may not become our new friend. Partners confer less on decisions that do not affect both of them. This is very different from the beginning of the relationship, where partners talk and confer about minute matters. One partner now may invite someone to dinner the following week without first consulting the other. It becomes, "Oh, by the way, I invited Joe and Tom," rather than, "What would you think about inviting Joe and Tom?" One partner may make an individual commitment, "Oh, by the way, I agreed to be on the bowling team next Tuesday," rather than, "How about our going bowling sometime soon?" Independence is rooted in years together, and by this time each partner has learned to remain as sensitive as possible to the other. The insecurity and fear of loss that accompany the reappearance of the individual in stage 3 has given way to a sense of reliability and dependability that not only allows but indeed boosts partners into more individualizing. Individuality is not synonymous with rejection. It is a step out, not a push away. It is a natural development, but it is not always smooth and easy. Sometimes old ghosts of competition, hurt, and misunderstanding reappear, but the couple has learned to identify these potential troubles and has developed skill in calming troubled waters. We had been working so closely together that when Tom had a chance to direct the play at the local volunteer theater, I was really pleased. Jim starts to explain. But when he was out so much and started having such a good time away from me, I got jealous about it. Tom tells us his side of the story. Yeah, Jim was eager for me to do it. Then all of a sudden he got angry and complaining about it. We struggled with it until after the first play was over. Then we talked. What I needed was something equally satisfying for myself, so I started taking piano lessons again, and I couldn't be happier, Jim says. When partners express dissatisfaction or anger, it is less threatening. No, I don't really want to do that. No longer sounds like the end of the world or the end of the relationship. Partners can say no to each other more easily and with greater frequency than in previous years. The independence touches all aspects of the couple's life, while separate sexual contacts with others are not new events at this stage. They may well change form. There may be friendships that include sex and are more separate. Again, the security the male couple has been building now permits this sort of risk. However, if the partner is truly threatened, the private sexual liaison is apt to fail. Fred tells us that at this stage, I used to go to the baths occasionally and just trick out. But then I met Jack and we saw each other a few times. Finally, I told Al about him, and Jack came home with me. Al told me he just couldn't handle the situation. Even though the sex with Jack was great, I stopped seeing him. Al was far more important to me. The growing independence helps to keep the relationship vital. Ralph says, there were times when it felt like cold water in the face, but it left us awake. Here he was changing right in front of me. He went back to school. I was looking at my lover, the A student. I was used to my good old lover, the bank teller, but this student in the house upset the balance. We had less money. He was studying all the time, and he might get to the bank president. We had less money. He was studying all the time, and he might get to be the bank president someday and not want to be with me. I guess I had to see it in his eyes that he still wanted me, and I had to see it enough days that I could start to breathe easy again, even if I was breathing new air. And I think that's what got me interested in computers and got me into this business I own. Men report the importance of each partner being able to import new things into the relationship from his outside experiences. As an example, outside sexual experiences can broaden and vary their sexual repertoire. With both partners gaining new independence, a new equilibrium is formed within the relationship. Independence serves to distance each from the other, a distancing that is necessary to keep their mutual attraction viable and minimize boredom and stagnation. A major signpost of stage 4 relationships is the balance between individual independence and dependence on the partner. These oppositional push-pull forces strive for homeostasis and in the process provide the high and low emotional fluctuations mentioned above. In this stage, the individual partner finds he has new work to do. He finds he can do interesting things on his own. The solid relationship permits the fresh steps of the individual. The other partner has the opportunity to establish balance by means of his growth, by means of his own growth. It becomes difficult when old fears of loss reappear. It is a time for the couple to learn that they can count on each other even in the midst of change. Dependability of partners. When Fred decided to go back to school because he was tired of being a teller, it did make the money a lot tighter, Al tells us. That made me feel guilty, Fred says, but it was really good. Al told me that he did mind that we didn't have enough money to do everything we wanted, but he was really behind my going back to school, even if it was a pain and scared him a little. While each characteristic has its negative and positive aspects, the dependability of partners we saw in this stage was a remarkably consistent factor that helped the partners in their building. The productivity we saw in this stage was made possible by the reassurance of knowing that the partner was ready and willing to help without necessarily talking about it. One partner may begin to pick up the shirts at the laundry after 9 years of expecting the other one to do it. Or the presumed non-cook may have dinner ready so that his partner can make it from work to night class on time. Some men in this stage mention knowing that they could count on their partners in some particular way because they had seen it in their first months together. I knew Mike was generous because he always had been, and I knew he was good at tightening the belt in a pinch because I saw him do it when we first met. Here is where we saw that it was not only the strong relationship that had been built that was helping, but each partner was counting on something special about the individual person with whom he had chosen to pair. They knew each other well after these many years together. Walt puts it his own way when he says, "I ain't no fortune teller. There's lots I don't know about. Old Iris could start talking tomorrow for all I know, but I sure as hell know Manny don't have no screws loose, and I sure as hell know he does have some shortcomings. If I didn't do the arithmetic on the checkbook, we'd be 2 years behind. And if I didn't call his sick Aunt Ida in the rest home once a month, she'd have thought he died long ago." Again and again we hear the phrase, I knew he'd be there. Again and again we hear the phrase, I knew he'd be there. There is a tone of relieved comfort that is not surprising in the face of the growing independence seen in this stage. In stage 3, the dependability rested more on the relationship. Although the relationship structure is continually building, now the dependability shifts more to the individual. Every positive feature seems to have its negative counterpart. The dependability of one's partner is wonderfully reassuring, but it is predictable, and it is too easy to take it all for granted. The teamwork oils the machinery of growth and change during this stage. But misunderstandings happen most often when all is taken for granted. Look, like the hero of Fiddler on the Roof, one member of the male couple may stop suddenly to look into his partner's eyes, knowing all the household chores are done, and ask, "But do you love me?" There is independence in the air. Change demands active reassurance. We observed how consistently couples in this stage, whether or not they talked about it, seem to know that they must handle this period of change together. Another problem seen in this stage is that an actively changing partner can take the dependable backup for granted and fail to notice that the other person also is starting on some new path of change. We worked together for almost 5 years. Steve is telling us about how he and Michael developed some new independence after 6 years together. Then I had a big job offer for a lot of money that I couldn't refuse. It meant a real upheaval in our lives. More hours for me, lots of trips and times away. At first, Michael was real supportive. Then he got jealous, I think. Michael tells us his side of it. At first, I was really proud of Steve's new job. Then I started feeling like I was carrying all the burdens at home, plus all the work we had done together. Steve was out having fun, traveling, meeting new people and new sex partners, while I kept the lawn mowed. It took me a few months to realize how bad I was feeling. I told Steve we had to talk about it. We hadn't had one of those heart-to-hearts in over a year, and I really needed it. I hadn't realized how much things had changed for the worse for Mike, Steve says. I was so wrapped up in my own excitement that I just took us for granted. He has always been so dependable. There may be temporary hurt when one partner points out the imbalance in dependability. Stage 4 couples have learned earlier how to manage these hurts, and they do rebalance when necessary. One partner may be going too fast in his individual change and may need to hear the alarm sounded. It may slow or temporarily stop his moving out into the world. This can be uncomfortable, but again, male couples in this stage find a way or use accustomed ways to keep their relationship alive, well and balanced. This is a period of balancing. The couple balances dependence and independence, going separate ways and coming back together, going outward into the larger world and coming home. By the end of this stage, the two people have established a reliable recipe for balancing the sweetness of individual freedom and the safe blandness of mutual security. Commentary. The building stage is a time when couples reap profits from having managed the characteristics of the second and third stages. The way they have found compatibility through developing complementarity was an early foundation for the smooth working together of collaboration. The resolution of the ambivalence felt in stage 2 helps lay the groundwork for the dependability of this stage. How the individuals reappear in stage 3 can make the independence of stage 4 satisfying and stimulating for the couple. Taking risks and dealing with conflicts allow the collaboration to lead to higher productivity. Establishing traditions creates a reliable skeletal structure so that the relationship becomes an even more tangible reality, allowing the individual partners to move away from home base, knowing that the relationship will be there upon their return. Once again, returning to our analogy between the relationship and the developing child, there is a slowing down of physical growth in this 5 to 10 year period. A child grows physically 5 times as much between birth and age 5 as he or she does between 5 and 10 years. On the other hand, during the second 5 years, the child acquires a different kind of growth, measured in skills acquired and integrated, such as reading, arithmetic, and motor coordination. During this 5-year stage, there is a general slowdown in the process of change. The differences are more subtle, which accounts for problems when couples are not really aware of the changes in each other. This is a stage where early characteristics often appear again. For instance, some of the ways of dealing with conflicts learned in stage 3 may fail to be effective when differences arise over productivity, as we saw in the story of Steve and Ted above. Taking risks may appear in greater force during this time, especially when couples in their desire for greater productivity, or for some individuals in their striving for more independence. The old fears of loss experienced in stage 3 may be felt strongly as partners move away from each other in their 7th or 8th year together. These are but a few examples of how the stages can and do lose their rigidity and must be viewed as being on a spiral progression rather than a strictly linear one. Some other occurrences are so commonly found in stage 4 that they must be included here. They do not qualify as characteristics but can be seen as problems by the couples when they are simply stage-related happenings. For example, the familiarity and comfortableness that have developed between the pair frequently reduce their sexual interest in each other. As Tripp says, the price they pay for the old shoe comfort of the relationship is found in the ashes of the bedroom. Our findings do not fully support his thesis, but there is clearly a reduction in sexual activity together sometime during stage 4. We believe that the high intuitiveness and accord between the partners reduce the resistance between them to such a low level that it extinguishes much of the erotic attraction. Again, almost intuitively, by developing greater independence and by introducing outside sexual partners, some couples re-establish a level of resistance that stimulates sexual interest and activity again. This problem of decline in sexual interest as high capability, or this problem of decline in sexual interest as high compatibility is established, occurs with opposite-sex couples and female couples as well. I guess I didn't realize that our sex was less and less frequent until one day he asked me why it was so. We had always slept together and cuddled and kissed and held each other. I don't think either of us could sleep without doing that, but indeed, the high sex of earlier days was gone. We also found some difference in the attitude of couples toward dealing with their anti-homosexual attitudes. See Chapter 9. Couples who had been together for more than 5 years in 1975 appeared different from stage 4 couples we interviewed in 1979. The rapid influence of the gay rights movement did seem to have some effect on lowering some people's homophobia and prejudice about themselves and other gays. Many books had been written, new models had begun to surface, and openness of talking about relationships between gay men had increased dramatically. We still find, however, that homophobia and other anti-gay attitudes take their toll on the lives of couples, especially when they are not identified and neutralized. Another common occurrence here is the development of a new limerence by one or both partners. Falling in love is such a powerful human adventure that it certainly is not surprising to find that gay men do it over and over again. It does become somewhat disconcerting to partners, however, when they do not realize the usual it does become somewhat disconcerting to partners, however, when they do not realize the usual transient nature of the feelings and experience the terrifying threat of relationship dissolution. New limerence is a fact of life, and old couples only laugh when they hear the younger ones worrying about it. Couples in this stage must allow each other the freedom to have such new romances, but must also safeguard their mateship with mutual agreements and understandings about the new lovers. Some problems. As mentioned in other stages, where one person moves more quickly into the next stage or the other remains longer in the previous stage, the discrepancies created cause unduly severe distress. In stage 4, the most common discrepancy is found in the couple where one partner is holding tenaciously to the usual dependencies that arise from 5 years together, while the other partner is moving rapidly to be more independent. The dependent partner grasps at every straw to keep the other from moving too far away. He may develop illnesses or other ways of being more dependent on the partner, holding him back. This is usually not a consciously contrived process, but rather a normal human defensive response. Change does not come easily for all, especially for couples who have different experiences when growing up that influence their current responses to their partners. Jealousy is an enemy of the relationship at every stage. It never seems to disappear completely, but with the frequent development of new romantic attachments, it can and does get intensified in stage 4, especially if the couple has not prepared for it. In couples with stage discrepancies, a new limerence can spell doom for the relationship. As the dependability of the relationship increases from stage 3 and the independence of stage 4 grows, partners can find themselves spending less and less time together. This insidious isolation from each other and from the relationship can create distance of such magnitude that the couple begins to feel like housemates and not lovers. This distancing often leads to arguments, which in turn create more distance. It becomes a catch-22 that must be stopped, or they will become only roommates. Conclusion. Stage 3 provides the foundation for the building that happens in stage 4. Each partner in the male couple goes about his individual tasks that result in the team productivity. The couple's eye is on the future. Their comfort is established in the present. The hallmark of this stage is the acquired ability to balance. The usual danger is a temporary lack of perspective, during which all attention is on the accomplishment, and, for the moment, the couple become too separate, forgetting that the primary earned reward of their years together is the relationship they have created. The couple then must rebalance. They learn in stage 4 how to be individuals, growing and changing separately and together, reaping more than twice the reward that might be found individually. End of chapter 6. Stage 4.